Hello guys and welcome to another video. Today what we have on the bench is the ZX Spectrum Plus version, and supposedly this system came to me as a working unit, so all we have to do, and as far as I know, we need to replace the membrane for the keyboard, which is something you cannot avoid over time. It's a classic, and that's all has been reported to be met. Let's power it up and see if this actually works in the beginning, and then we can move along with whatever needs to be done. But before we do that, and as I'm always saying, take a glance inside, take a good look around discrete components for any kind of suspicious shape or color, which is not the case, luckily today, and then power it up like I did. And we have a really bad TV signal coming up, and this is a 3B issue of the ZX Spectrum, and we'll try to do something to make the picture better. And apart from the modulator itself, what we can think of right now is to recap those two capacitors over there near the modulator, those two, and those two down there in between the upper and lower RAM are critical. But of course, when you do recapping, you should go all the way and change all capacitors. I don't think I have so many today, but let's see what we can do. We'll try to change those in between the RAM, and we're gonna change those responsible for the picture to get better quality. While at the same time, I was thinking maybe we should do the AE mode, or the video mode, the composite mode for ZX Spectrum. In the meantime, I have changed the C25 and those two critical ones for the RAM, remove the old ones, and that's all I can do. I don't have any the capacitors left. C25 didn't make the picture better. I opened the TV modulator and tried to readjust the channel via this coil that is right there inside the modulator, but nothing happened. So again, I have just replaced one cap, a couple of others next to the lower RAM, and nothing happened when played a bit with the coil for the signal. So what I'm going to be doing, I guess, is to drill the case and put the classic female RCA, so we can support video signal coming from the so-called composite. This RCA should be somewhere right there, and get the picture from the modulator and ground it, and it will be the best solution, I believe. And keep the internal part of the I'm gonna take the signal right there, the internal part of the modulator intact, as I always do, so it's reversible, and I keep the original part onto the machine. So I skipped the drilling part again, as I always do, because I think it's boring. And here we have the RCA in place. I have to screw it carefully in there and then tighten it. Maybe some glue would do. Tighten it, and it's gonna be looking like this. I'm gonna solder the cable and onto the TV modulator to steal the signal, and I guess it's gonna be looking fine. And the good thing with the ZX Spectrum Plus is that you have space. You have enough space to work inside the case. Now here I have soldered the first part, the cable onto the RCA, and now we're looking for the plastics, not to be bothered by any plastics, or the other way around, the cable to bother any plastics. So I think we're fine. There is plenty of space. You can do stuff inside the ZX Spectrum Plus. If you compare it to the 48K model, the first Spectrum, the narrow case, we cannot have the liberty to do anything. And now let's put the motherboard back into case. I have soldered the main cable right there to get the signal where we should get the signal from. And usually what I do is the ground, I hook it, like I make this hook so it can be stayed inside and hooked onto the modulator to get the ground. And that's simple and efficient. So yeah, again, one connection made. Let's test it. One thing to point out, and one thing only, is that you have to keep it short. I mean the cable, for keeping resistance low, and not to mess the legs that you're gonna have take the signal from the modulator. The first one is power, 5 volts, which is the first one facing you by the time you have it open, and the second that is behind it is the one that actually gives us this wonderful signal, so we can hook our beloved Spectrum on a monitor or a modern TV, whatever device can support a composite signal. So there you go, step number one. We are done with the video mode. We have changed a couple of capacitors. I think I'm gonna put a heatsink over the ULA chip right there. I need to pay attention to the height, but again, ZX Spectrum has plenty of space, so we can do things like putting heatsinks on easily. And again, this case is ideal because you don't have to care about the height or the size of the heatsink. Now I have placed this classic narrow one, this black one, over the ULA just to test it, and then I have a bigger one, the silver one, which looks also good. Have no problem with space. One of the problems we used to have with ZX Spectrum 48K was that the ribbon cable from the keyboard was getting in touch with hot surface, and this, you can see here, this space is more than enough, and the ribbons will be on the side, left and right, so there's no way they can get in contact with the heat, with the hot heatsink. I think we're fine with this one. This black one is what I'm going to put on. And I think we shouldn't forget the purpose of this video in the first place, right? So which was to replace the membrane for the keyboard, and this is the new one, just arrived, and it is really amazing. The thickness is twice the thickness of the old one, and the material is such it cannot get easily burned or damaged. I think this will last for a long time, and the quality is excellent. The ribbon cables are kind of shorter, which is a good thing for the heat, and it's just exactly what I needed. Now, trying to remove the old membrane, you have to deal with 10 screws over this metal plate, and you'll find the old membrane inside the sandwich of the keyboard, the membrane, and this plate on the top, and you have to make sure that you remove these clips, the holders. That means 4 more screws to go. And what I have found is this thin layer of paper in between the metal plate and the keyboard membrane. Remove it carefully, It should be there for better contact. And yeah, underneath you can find the old membrane. Carefully remove it. You don't have to remove the keys at any point. Maybe some dust off or some other cleaner, compressed air would do. Feel free to use just compressed air, no liquid, no chemicals at this point, and only if you have to. So this is the old membrane. You can see the difference. It's very thin, very unreliable. Now this time around, when we have to place the new membrane in place, just like I did here, you can follow the holes, little holes that hold it together, so you cannot miss it, or you cannot um, uh, put it the other way around, and then put the paper in between, and then of course the metal plate, again following these little holes that keep it straight. Remember, all this time you have to have the keyboard raised somehow, so there is space, so the buttons are not pressed, right? You can understand that. It would be difficult to put everything in place if the keys underneath the keyboard were pressed, right? So last part, the metal plate, again following these little holes, which help us to have the right orientation. And yeah, let's put the screws back, and remember those holders, the clips up there, the last thing to do, which is important because you have to let the ribbon cable be kind of loose. It's not tight, right? So you have to give it some space in between the clip. There is enough ribbon to get to the connectors. Don't worry about it, just give it some space, let it loose inside those clips. You don't want to tear it apart, so just put it in place and put the screws back. Don't worry about the length, it's more than enough to get to the connectors. And since everything is okay, let's try to test it again. And I'm happy because the guy was right. He was absolutely honest with me. He told me, the previous owner, I mean, he told me, the seller, that it's only the keyboard that you need to change, the membrane, and that would be all. And apparently now we have a working keyboard, and that was pretty much what it was. The video mode is something I wanted to do. Let's check one other thing before we go into loading tests. This picking in memory, this particular poke here, gives us a beep sound every time a key is pressed. This is a good test to see that the sound actually works, or the beeper, right? So I think we're fine with the keyboard. I have tested the keyboard as we speak. Now reset it and get ready for some loading games tests. I believe the old classic way to see that the transfer rate and the loading of the programs is possible. Just one look at the rear view, the back of the machine. This is how it looks. I think it looks nice and discreet. You don't have the space to do that on a 48K model, right? But the Plus is ideal, has the ideal space to work with things that you want to do on the machine and on the case. So here we have it, nice output. Let's check some games. What do you say? And the way I want to test the games is through this old flatbed mono traditional cassette, retro, whatever you want to call it, cassette player, and with the original cassettes, like this one here. The way I'm doing this is because of its pure nostalgia, if you will, but also I want to check that the transfer rate is correct. I mean, the circuit of the Spectrum can load the games correctly. So that means that everything with it is fine, and the machine has no issues. And this particular one, of course, like what we have to do is to load a game that requires 48K, so we know that there is no damage on the upper RAM chips, so we could possibly have 16K left only. So just want to make sure that it is loading games the right way, like it should be, and 48K is what we have, full 48Ks available. And I like this game very much. Okay, you got me on this one. It was a lame excuse from my side. You can always type a few sentences, and you can find the free memory, and you can identify the memory of your system. That's right. That was a lame excuse again, because I just wanted to load some games today, and that's what I'm doing. I think everything works fine, looks fine. The transfer rate, the loading, the ability of the machine to load the games has already been tested, but I'm gonna keep doing this with just a few tapes that I have found recently. One of my favorite ones, Boulder Dash here, and some other tapes I should try, just for the nostalgia part of this evening. And to be honest, I try to do this every now and then, some Saturday nights, some Friday nights at home. Loading games from tapes, like the way we used to when we were kids. Anyways, we're living in the times of emulators, SD cards, fast loaders, you name it. Everything is out there, and we can get it at reasonable prices, and a whole bunch of them. But the thing is, at some point, I like to maintain some games on tape. My old flatbed retro cassette player in working condition, still in operation. I'm trying to go over the right maintenance for my Spectrums, or for other machines, so that can be over time as original and intact as possible. So yeah, I guess we're fine. This one has been loaded as well, so let's go on. And now this is something I haven't seen so far. I didn't have this game back in the day. One of my friends gave me this. He told me it is quite old, from '83, the Blade Alley, and it was one of the first attempts to make a shoot 'em up game in 3D, presented in 3D. So let's see how this works. It doesn't look to me very sophisticated, speaking for the graphics, but who knows? I haven't seen that. Let's check this one. It will be the last one for tonight. And I see now what he meant. Yeah, this is a fast, nice 3D shoot 'em up from 1983. Wow, I like it very much. I can see those lines and this 3D animation at the back can get you dizzy, but it's a nice, fast, and not easy game to play. Wow. So that was it. Very nice. I guess we can call it a wrap now, guys. So I guess we did a pretty good job today, guys. Another classic system restored, the ZX Spectrum Plus, and I'm happy with the results and everything. So I guess, we can close this session for tonight. I finally had the chance to test some games along with my cassette player from that era. And thank you very much for watching, and consider subscribing if you like this stuff. I'm gonna catching you pretty soon, I guess, and I hope with some other models, some other modifications, some other repair or restoration over retro systems or game consoles or something. Thank you very much. Bye.